What's going on, everybody? This is the JRPG lineup of 2021. I've been doing these lineup videos annually for quite some time now, so if you appreciate them, please do me the biggest kindness you can do for my channel and hit that like button and subscribe for more JRPG goodness. Before the list gets started, we have a couple of things to get out the way first. This is a list of JRPGs most likely to release in English in 2021. Next, look at the upload date of this video. If a game was announced after that upload date, it's obviously not on this list, but there's a good chance I might have missed a JRPG or two. Go ahead and let me know about that down below. And lastly, I'm not some guy spouting off information about JRPGs. I'm also a guy who plays JRPGs nearly 365 days a year and someone who's played a lot of different JRPG series, so I have my own thoughts and opinions on each. I have more to say about some games than others. That's just the way that it is. Anyway, now that we've got that all cleared up, let's start the JRPG lineup of 2021. Enjoy. Disgaea 6. I love the Disgaea series. I've played and finished every single Disgaea game up until this point. It's hard for me to rank the Disgaea games, but I love Disgaea 2 the most. Disgaea 6 looks to be keeping the heart and soul of Disgaea intact with over-the-top characters and insane attack animations. However, this is the first Disgaea game to be making the jump to 3D, something that I'm not exactly 100% okay with, but as I see more of the game, I'm starting to warm up to the change. Either way, as long as we get the core Disgaea experience, I don't mind the shift to 3D. We're still getting insane stats with numbers running well over 1 billion. Reincarnation has been upgraded to Super Reincarnation for this game, which I feel is a smart move to make Reincarnation a main feature, as it was pretty much something you didn't have to do in most Disgaea games unless you were going for the post-game content. This will probably give most people who only play the main story of Disgaea games a grasp of what the reincarnation mechanic has to offer. In addition to those, we'll probably have the item world and character worlds to further upgrade characters. Disgaea 6 is one of my most anticipated games coming in 2021. I just hope I can fully stomach the move to 3D. Persona 5 Strikers. The milking of Persona 5 probably won't stop anytime soon, not that I have a real problem with it as I freaking love Persona 5. But us in the West are finally getting Persona 5 Strikers. This will be a warrior style game or a Musou style game. As such, there will be a lot of enemies on screen just waiting for their chance to get destroyed by you, the player. I'm personally not a fan of Musou games, probably because I haven't played the good ones, but I'm interested in this one because, well, it's Persona 5. For those of you worried that this is just another Musou game with a Persona 5 paint job, okay, well, technically that is the case, but it's a Persona 5 game first and a Musou game second, which means you have all the style and substance you can expect from Persona 5 with Musou style combat. I was able to play the Japanese demo and was pleasantly surprised at how it ran on PS4 and how flashy the Musou gameplay was. Your all-out attacks are here, enemies have weaknesses to certain attacks, and you'll be able to, of course, play as all the Phantom Thieves you got to know and love in Persona 5. Yes, that includes Futaba. This game is technically a sequel to Persona 5, but it doesn't have any of the story beats that Persona 5 Royal added, so don't expect any of that here. Persona 5 Strikers is definitely a day one pickup for me. Legend of Heroes Hajimari no Kizuki. After coming off the satisfying ending that was Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4, we have the next game in the series, Hajimari no Kizuki. This entry in the series looks to keep the same style of combat from Cold Steel 3 and 4, while maybe fine-tuning some battle features to make it even more fun to play. And this game might also be filling in some of the blanks that Trails of Cold Steel 4 kinda left unanswered, bringing with it new characters with a plethora of returning characters to choose from. If you played Cold Steel 4 and saw the immense offering there, Hajimari no Kizuki says hold my beer when it comes to how many playable characters the game has. Needless to say, since this is a follow-up to Trails of Cold Steel 4, the game dubbed The End of SaGa, this should not be your first Legend of Heroes game, and you absolutely should play the other games before diving into this one. And yes, I know that's a hard sell, but my god, is it worth it. The Legend of Heroes games do not skip out on character development, world building, or customization, just to name a few aspects that it does incredibly well. I played all the Legend of Heroes games to this point, and I'm very interested to see what Hajimari no Kizuki has to offer. I will admit though, personally, I am getting just a tad bit fatigued with the Legend of Hero formula, at least when it comes to the combat, so hopefully after this game they'll change up the battle system to something a bit different. Word around the block is that the next Legend of Heroes game after this one will be on a different graphics engine and that the combat will have some sort of action element to it. We'll have to wait and see what that fully entails, but for now, Hajimari no Kizuki will have to keep us entertained. Neo: The World Ends With You. I always knew a new World Ends With You game was coming, but really I didn't expect it to take this long. But as the saying goes, it's better late than never. I thoroughly enjoyed the first World Ends With You game that released on DS back in 2007. It was brimming with style, character, and a combat system that had you controlling two characters at the same time. Not to mention a soundtrack that, in my opinion of course, can rival the Persona games. The World Ends With You was a stellar game. Getting a new game in the series was just inevitable. Neo: The World Ends With You looks to keep the same character design, art direction, and kinda manga style storytelling while making the shift to 3D, being a full force action RPG. I have high hopes for this game since the first one delivered on nearly every front for me, except for the controls. Even on DS it was a bit much for me to personally control two characters at once, and the game being ported to Nintendo Switch, the controls weren't exactly fine-tuned. I'm sure Square Enix will be doing this game justice when it comes to us in 2021. I'm especially hoping the soundtrack is just as memorable as its predecessor. Shin Megami Tensei 5. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is a JRPG that I've been waiting to see virtually anything on for quite some time. We did get a new trailer featuring the protagonist, and of course Tokyo has seen better days with the standard invasion of Shin Megami Tensei demons running amok. Unfortunately, as of the upload date of this video, there hasn't been any gameplay shown for this game, but we can more than likely expect a turn-based battle system, demon fusions, taking advantage of enemy weaknesses to gain an extra turn, and multiple endings featuring law, chaos, and neutral decisions. Whatever Shin Megami Tensei 5 has to offer, I'm sure it will be a peak JRPG experience, and a lot of people are going to enjoy the game. Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne Remastered. Announced with the new trailer for Shin Megami Tensei 5 at the time, this remaster is looking to recapture the magic Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne had when it originally released on PS2. Well, recapturing that magic somewhat. The game comes with a quick save feature and an easy mode the original did not have. That makes this version of Nocturne pretty much newcomer friendly. So if you want to experience that raw, uncut, unfiltered, and will probably leave you with a brain aneurysm Nocturne, you might want to look at the PS2 version. But the quick save and easy difficulty mode are optional, so you can indeed play it as it was originally intended, I guess. Unless of course you don't want a bunch of slowdown and frame rate dips, then yeah, go for the PS2 version. Although those might be fixed by the time the game releases in the West for PS4 and Switch. I plan to get this remaster, but I have no intention of actually playing it to the end, as I've already finished Nocturne on PS2 and I feel I've experienced Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne enough for one lifetime. If you didn't already know, Nocturne on PS2 was one of the hardest JRPGs in existence, and it wasn't a very wise decision for me to start the game on hard mode with no guide whatsoever. Either way, if you're looking to dip your toe into the water with Shin Megami Tensei and whet your appetite before playing Shin Megami Tensei 5, look no further. Digimon Survive. Digimon Survive is a game that's been in the dark for some time now, hearing bits and pieces of information here and there. I'm not the biggest Digimon fan out there, but after playing Cyber Sleuth for some time, I would say Digimon is on the come up. I'm always open to playing a strategy RPG, and Digimon Survive looks like the perfect candidate for some tactical gameplay. And as such, with Digimon, you'll be able to evolve your Digimon during combat and exploit some enemy weaknesses. I'm not 100% sure if this one is coming out in 2021, but if it is, I hope it's not coming out among a bunch of other games so it doesn't get easily overshadowed. Nier Replicant. I was a big fan of Nier Automata when it was released. Having an interesting story, satisfying combat, and having a great set of assets was icing on the cake. Looking to maybe have 2 out of those 3, Nier Replicant is a remaster of the original Nier that was released on PS3. Instead of playing as a father of an epic tale, you're playing as a brother trying to save his sister. So as I understand it, it's the same game, but you're playing as a different main character with different dialogue. But the structure of the game is the same as Nier PS3, if that makes any sense. But the game will also have revamped combat. I never got a chance to play the original Nier before my frames per second obsession kicked in, so this remaster being on current platforms seems to be the perfect opportunity. I've heard a lot about this title, so I'm hoping it lives up to expectation. Bravely Default 2. I never dove too deeply into previous Bravely Default offerings, but after playing the demo to Bravely Default 2, that looks to change. The combat has always been a highlight of the series in my opinion, and this game seems to be keeping things on the same course. You'll be able to change your party members into different classes, allowing for a lot of customization and many varieties when it comes to team composition. You also have the standard Brave and Default system. Using the default option, you will be able to defend and build Brave points to a certain amount, and you can then unleash all the Brave points you have accumulated to make multiple actions in a single turn. Don't get too relaxed because your opponent can also utilize this feature, making for some truly challenging encounters. Bravely Default 2 ups the ante in the visuals department. The series makes the move from 3DS to Switch with the Unreal Engine, allowing for the game's charm to receive a major upgrade in the right direction. I can only hope I can make time for Bravely Default 2 when it releases. Tales of Arise. Tales of Arise is another game I'm not too sure will be releasing in 2021, but since the game was slated for a 2020 release and was delayed due to the world crisis of 2020, I would say we have a good shot at getting this one late in the year, if anything. Tales of Arise is changing the playing field for Tales of games, looking to have battles take place as you're out in the battlefield rather than a transition into battle like most of the series, making it a full-force action RPG, as the Tales series has always been, but this time it could be more compared to action RPGs like Ys, Tokyo Xanadu, Final Fantasy VII Remake, or maybe even a Western RPG like Witcher 3. I think Tales of Arise is a game that's looking to break the mold from normal Tales of games like the series has been desperately trying to do since Tales of Hysteria. And hey, I don't know, maybe this might be for the best, making the series more popular than it's ever been, or maybe it might be for the worst. All I know is from a Tales game you can expect solid combat, an endearing story, and a charming cast of characters. Definitely in my top 5 most anticipated games of 2021. Edge of Eternity. Edge of Eternity is an RPG you probably didn't know about until you saw it just now. That's fair enough. The game has been in early access for some time, but we'll be seeing an official release on consoles in 2021, so I'm counting it as a JRPG coming in that year. In this RPG, you follow two siblings that are on a quest to find the cure for the corrosion that plagues their world. Battles are on an ATB, and you can use standard attacks, skills, and magic to dispatch your enemies. Battles also take place on a grid field, and you can move your characters around to gain a tactical advantage. From what I've played while the game is in early access, the game seems promising. I enjoyed the battle system and was relieved that there was a way to speed up battles. The story seemed rather intriguing enough to keep me playing, and the dialogue between the characters was especially charming and well done, making the characters feel real and down to earth. Hopefully this game gets the recognition it deserves when it officially releases. Atelier Ryza 2. Atelier Ryza has been the breakout success for the Atelier series, putting this series on the map and then some. It's really no surprise we're getting a sequel. The first game impressed us with Ryza herself really, and the battle system was on an ATB of sorts, utilizing follow-up attacks. The sequel seems to be giving us more Thixa, and the battle system seems to be more evolved. Of course you have your alchemy system, which will allow you to make all sorts of items and make some truly useful equipment towards the end of the game. The first game made crafting into a simple sort of skill tree, so I'm looking forward to seeing if it's just as simple and easy to use in the sequel. You'll have more options when it comes to travel or Ryza. She'll be able to swim, ride animals, and in general have more dynamic options when it comes to gathering and exploring the fields. I'll be looking to play more of Ryza when this game drops. Granblue Phantasy Relink. Granblue Phantasy Relink seems to have been in development forever, making its first appearance in 2016, and now it's finally seeing a release in 2022. Wait, whoops, this game is not releasing in 2021, it's coming in 2022. My bad guys, feels like I've been following this game for the longest time, hoping it would come out year after year. Well, I guess it will release when it's ready. I mean, we don't want another 2077 incident. Sorry about that, moving on. Ys 9. I've been an avid fan of the Ys games, playing the more recent ones, and it's a really fun series with nice cast of characters, good action combat, and a criminally underrated soundtrack. Like, seriously, the Ys games has got some killer tracks. You need to listen to some of its music. Anyway, Ys 9 looks to go even further beyond the scope of Ys 8, still following the hero of the series, Adol, and it looks like he's got himself some new powers and new allies to help him on his latest journey. With Ys 9, you'll be able to explore with a variety of different characters, each with their own unique ways to traverse the island you'll be spending most of your time on. As is normal with Ys games, you have your solid action combat that allows you to quickly switch between characters and take advantage of enemy weapon weaknesses. Ys 9 is hopefully a game I can get to when it drops. Monster Hunter Rise. Monster Hunter Rise looks to pick up where Monster Hunter World left off, giving us a mainstream Monster Hunter game that everyone can love. Monster Hunter World was the best-selling game in the Monster Hunter series, and Rise might be able to surpass it, giving us more big monsters to hunt down and materials to farm, and the Monster Hunter combat you guys all know and love. If you love World, there's really no reason why Rise shouldn't be the same case. It's funny because I can always play Monster Hunter style games like God Eater, but I can never actually play Monster Hunter itself. But that looks to make a paradigm shift, not with this Monster Hunter game actually, but the next Monster Hunter game I want to talk about, Monster Hunter Stories 2. That's right, Monster Hunter is getting not one but 2 games released in 2021 with Stories 2. The first Monster Hunter Stories game was released on DS, and I gotta be honest, I didn't even know the Stories game existed until this trailer dropped. I might not be interested in World or Rise, but this Monster Hunter game seems to be right up my alley with its art design and characters. As long as the combat holds up and there's a strong narrative, I think I'll be getting Monster Hunter Stories 2 as soon as it releases. Eden Zero. Eden Zero will be an action RPG based off the manga series of the same name created by the author of Fairy Tail. I believe this is the first game based off a manga instead of an anime. Eden Zero doesn't have an anime as of yet, or maybe they're looking to drop the anime in tandem with this game, which would be a pretty smart move. I haven't read too much of Eden Zero myself, just a handful of chapters, but the concept seemed rather intriguing and the character design is on point. I'm not sure what to expect from this game to be honest, but I did play the Fairy Tail game that was released in 2020, and it was an okay, really simple RPG to play. Maybe I can expect the same from Eden Zero. Just not a lot of story related content cut or completely skipped over like what happened in the Fairy Tail game. Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. Phantasy Star Online 2 finally graced the rest of the world with its presence in 2020 after being out only in Japan for a little bit, like 3 or 5, 8 years. It took quite some time for PSO2 to be released officially. It's a great game with nice combat and has a nice variety when it comes to character creation. However, 8 years is a long time. While there was methods one could use to play the game in English, I didn't play PSO2 until it was officially released. For me personally, the game just felt a bit dated, and that's where PSO2 New Genesis comes into play. Calling New Genesis an upgrade would probably be an understatement. This is a complete overhaul of PSO2, coming with a fresh coat of glossy paint when it comes to graphics, new classes to choose from, and a massive update to the combat system that was already a hit. New Genesis is looking to bring more people into the PSO2 world and have it launch worldwide in 2021. Neptunia Re Verse. You know, there's a lot of things in this world that are guaranteed. Death, taxes, and another Neptunia game. This time it's a remaster of a remake of a game that was released in 2010. Listen, I don't know what's going on with this series anymore. Neptunia fans, please correct me in the comments section. Comments are great for the YouTube algorithm. I haven't paid too much attention to this series for a good while, and there's another Neptunia game coming out, and that's Neptunia Virtual Stars, which will be about virtual idols, and that kind of plays into the whole VTuber movement that you're probably going to see more of in 2021. So yes, that's 2 Hyperdimension Neptunia games coming at you in 2021. Someone let me know when these games come out and if they're good. Maybe I'll get back on the Neptunia train after being off for some time. Fate Extra Record. Fate Extra Record is a remake of a 2010 PSP game. If you didn't already know, the Fate series is a fairly complicated series lore-wise, but has some incredibly memorable characters. I played the 2010 PSP game, and it was a pretty okay game, and the combat was a little bit on the luck side, but I still enjoyed it. With better graphics and a battle system that might be what's in line with Fate Grand Order, Fate Extra Record looks to be a pretty fun game to play when it releases. I don't think you need to know all that much about the Fate series to play this game, but I'll leave it to some people in the comments to determine if this is a good starting Fate game. It probably isn't. Scarlet Nexus. Scarlet Nexus debuted as one of the first JRPGs releasing on PS5 and Xbox Series X, and I really wasn't all that impressed by it at first, but the more I see on Scarlet Nexus, the more interested I get and want to play the game. This seems to be a hack and slash action RPG that you'll be able to utilize psychic abilities to throw objects at your enemies, along with a plethora of other abilities, I'm sure. You'll also be traveling with the other party members that will help support you in battle in various ways. I don't have too much hype for Scarlet Nexus personally, but I am curious to see how it does. The gameplay looks solid and the overall aesthetic of the game looks rather easy to look at. I'm looking forward to seeing what Scarlet Nexus brings to the table. Rune Factory 5. I don't have too much experience with the Rune Factory games, but that has a shot to change with Rune Factory 5. A small shot, but a shot nonetheless. In this game, you'll be playing as a ranger protecting and helping a town. You'll fight monsters in action-style combat with the full party and tamed monsters. You'll also be able to farm materials and fish, which I'm sure is a highlight for a lot of people. For me personally, it's okay, I guess. And of course, in Rune Factory fashion, you'll be able to romance characters. This all sounds like your standard Rune Factory game, and is looking to be the jolt the series needs to stay afloat. I'm curious to see how the fans react to this new entry. Poison Control. Poison Control is an upcoming JRPG I am very interested in. The game is an action shooter RPG with a nice stylish aesthetic. In this game, you'll be in control of a protagonist who wakes up in hell. In order to leave, he has to purify certain people's own personal hell, earning him tickets for each one. Get 5 and he gets to go back to the world of the living, along with his personal helper who gets to go to heaven. The whole premise of this game has my curiosity overflowing, and I can't wait to learn more about the story as I play. The action combat looks to be a little standard, but there seems to be more here than just shooting away through monsters. You'll probably have to worry about field hazards and monsters overwhelming you. As I mentioned before, you have to purify parts of a person's hell, and it looks like it will play as an important gameplay mechanic as you traverse the many dungeons in the game. Poison Control is another JRPG I'm heavily anticipating to release in 2021. Labyrinth of Galleria. Labyrinth of Galleria is a sequel to Labyrinth of Refrain that was released in the West in 2018. Galleria has had some delays for Japan, but should be making its way westward in 2021. This is a dungeon crawler from the makers of Disgaea, so you can expect a lot of customization for your party members and a good amount of systems to wrap around your head. But should you be able to, I imagine you're in for some fun times and rewarding gameplay. I dabbled a little bit in Labyrinth of Refrain when it was released, but never really got a chance to fully play it. That doesn't look to change for me with Galleria, but if you are an avid fan of dungeon RPGs, this is one game you might want to look out for. SaGa Frontier Remastered. I have no experience with the SaGa games. I played one on PS2 and I thought it was one of the worst games I've ever played in my life, and since then I've ignored the SaGa games like the plague. But now that has a decent chance at changing. This remaster looks to put SaGa back on the map, and maybe, just maybe, depending on how well this one does, we might see a new mainline SaGa game someday. As with any remaster, this one is coming with updated graphics, a high speed mode, a new character being added, and new events and cutscenes not included in the original release. It looks like this is going to be a solid remaster. If you're a fan of the original and of these games, I hope this remaster does this serious justice. Cris Tales. Cris Tales is a game that instantly reminds me of Vanillaware games like Dragon's Crown and Odin Sphere. Games with incredibly beautiful art that translate incredibly well to gameplay. This game looks like a fairy tale picture book come to life. It's a turn-based RPG that will utilize button prompts to gain extra attacks or to defend and absorb some damage. It will also have time elements, such as being able to poison an enemy one turn, and you know how poison works in most JRPGs. Your enemy takes damage before or after their turn for a set amount of turns, let's say 5 turns. With the time elements implemented in this game, you can make that poison damage even more devastating by speeding up time in a single turn to allow for that damage that would have been given over the course of 5 turns accumulated in a single turn. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think I've ever seen an RPG implement time elements just like that. Maybe it's been done before, but I've just never seen it, or I'm not remembering. Either way, I can't wait to see how Cris Tales utilize time elements in different ways. Well guys, that's all the JRPGs I could find that have a good shot of releasing in English in 2021. Let me know what JRPGs you guys can't wait to play in the coming year. I know I'll be looking forward to Disgaea 6, Tales of Arise, and Poison Control. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. That's all for now. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.